I should have trusted my instincts that Sunday evening. But hindsight is 20/20, isn't it? At 62, I'd like to think I've developed some wisdom, some ability to sense when something's off. That night, driving through the quiet streets of Riverside toward my son's house, I felt it. That little whisper in the back of my mind that something wasn't quite right. The sun was setting behind the San Bernardino Mountains, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. Beautiful, really. The kind of evening that should have been peaceful. My hands gripped the steering wheel a little tighter than necessary as I turned onto Maple Drive. 1247. There it was. The craftsman-style house with the blue shutters that Michael and Emily had bought 3 years ago. From the street, it looked perfect. Warm light glowed through the front windows. I could see Emily moving around inside, setting the table. Everything looked normal. So why did my stomach feel like I'd swallowed a stone? I pulled into the driveway and sat there for a moment, engine idling. Through the rearview mirror, I checked my appearance. A habit from 40 years of nursing, always making sure I looked put together. My gray hair was neat, my lipstick still in place. I looked like exactly what I was. A retired nurse, a widow of 5 years, a mother who loved her only son more than anything in this world. The garage door was open. Michael's Tesla wasn't there yet. He must still be at work. It was 5:47 p.m. Emily had specifically said dinner would be at 6, and that Michael would definitely be home by then. "He's so excited to see you, Mrs. Anderson," she'd texted that morning. "Please don't cancel like last time. Michael would be so disappointed." That text had bothered me, though I couldn't say exactly why. The last 2 Sunday dinners had been canceled. Once because Michael had the flu, once because Emily said she had a migraine. Both times I'd been the one to suggest we reschedule. So why was Emily framing it like I was the one who kept canceling? I turned off the engine and grabbed my purse. "Stop being paranoid, Linda. Emily is your daughter-in-law. She's family." But 38 years as an ER nurse had taught me to pay attention to details, to notice the small things that didn't quite add up. And lately with Emily, there had been a lot of small things. The front door opened before I could knock. Emily stood there, smiling wide, her blonde hair pulled back in an elegant twist. She wore a navy blue dress, more formal than usual for a family dinner. Everything about her looked prepared, rehearsed, almost. "Mrs. Anderson!" She pulled me into a hug. It was tight, almost desperate, and lasted a beat too long. When she released me, I could see her eyes were bright, maybe a little too bright. "I'm so glad you could make it. Please, Emily, call me Linda. We've been over this." I tried to keep my voice light. "We're family." "I know, but—" She paused and something flickered across her face. "Michael always says you prefer formality with—" She stopped mid-sentence, like she'd caught herself saying something she shouldn't. "With what?" I asked. "Nothing. Sorry. Come in, please. Dinner's almost ready." I stepped inside and immediately smelled it. Roasted chicken, garlic, tomato sauce, melted cheese. My stomach rumbled despite my unease. The dining room table was set beautifully, with cloth napkins and the good china. 3 place settings. A bottle of red wine was already open on the counter, breathing. This was unusual. Emily wasn't much of a cook. Most of our Sunday dinners had been takeout or simple pasta. This looked like something that required hours of preparation. "Everything smells wonderful," I said, setting my purse on the entryway table. "What's the occasion?" Emily's smile didn't quite reach her eyes. "No occasion. Just wanted to do something special. You know, with Michael's promotion coming up and everything, I thought we should celebrate." The promotion. Michael had mentioned it in passing 2 weeks ago, but he'd been careful to downplay it. "Nothing's confirmed yet, Mom. Don't get excited." That was my son, always cautious, never wanting to jinx anything. But Emily talked about it like it was a done deal. I walked into the dining room, taking in the details. Fresh flowers in a vase, candles that hadn't been lit yet. And there, on the kitchen counter, I noticed something odd. One dinner plate was already prepared, covered tightly with aluminum foil. "What's that?" I asked, pointing. Emily glanced over, and for just a second, I saw something in her expression. Anxiety? Guilt? It was gone so fast I couldn't be sure. "Oh, that's Michael's plate. I made it ahead so the presentation would be nice. You know how he is about his food looking pretty." She laughed, but it sounded forced. I did know how Michael was about food. He was meticulous about it, but not because he cared about presentation. He was meticulous because one wrong ingredient could kill him. The thought came unbidden, and I immediately felt guilty. Why was I thinking about Michael's allergy right now? Emily knew about it. Of course she knew. It was the first thing I'd told her when Michael brought her home 8 years ago. Cashews, I'd said, looking her straight in the eye. Michael is deathly allergic to cashews. Anaphylactic shock. He carries an EpiPen everywhere, but the best defense is vigilance. Always check ingredients. Always ask at restaurants. Always be careful. Emily had nodded solemnly. I understand, Mrs. Anderson. I would never let anything happen to him. The sound of a car in the driveway pulled me from my thoughts. Michael's Tesla. I felt my shoulders relax slightly. My son was home. Everything would be fine. He came through the door a moment later, loosening his tie, looking tired but happy. At 32, Michael still had that boyish face that made him look younger than his years. He'd gotten his father's dark hair and my blue eyes. When he saw me, his whole face lit up. "Mom!" He crossed the room and wrapped me in a proper hug, not the too tight, too long kind Emily had given me. Just a normal, comfortable, I love you hug. "I'm so glad you're here. Sorry I'm late. Meeting ran over." My hand automatically went to his waist, to the small black case clipped to his belt. Michael's EpiPen case. I'd bought it for him when he turned 16, and he'd carried one like it ever since. It was second nature for me to check it whenever I hugged him, just a little touch to make sure it was there, that he was safe. The case was there, snapped shut. Everything was fine. "Still got the guardian angel?" Michael teased, noticing my hand. "Always check twice," I said. "It was our little ritual. Remember?" "I remember, Mom. You drilled it into my head for 29 years. Emily appeared with a glass of wine, offering it to me. "Red okay? I know you usually prefer white, but I thought it would pair better with dinner." I didn't usually drink red wine. It gave me headaches. But I took the glass anyway, not wanting to seem ungrateful. "Thank you, Emily." She poured another glass for Michael, and I noticed her hand trembled slightly. The wine sloshed in the glass. "You okay?" Michael asked her, putting a hand on her shoulder. "Fine, I really want tonight to be perfect." She glanced at the clock on the wall. "Let's sit down. Everything's ready." We moved to the dining room and took our seats. Michael at the head of the table, Emily to his right, me to his left. The same seating arrangement we always used. Emily kept glancing at the clock. It was 5:58 p.m. "So," Michael said, unfolding his napkin. "Mom, how's the garden coming?" "Good. The tomatoes are finally ripening. I'll send you home with some." I took a small sip of the wine. It was actually quite good, rich and smooth. "How's work? Emily mentioned the promotion." Michael shot Emily a look. "It's not confirmed yet. I told you not to say anything." "Oh, come on, honey. Your mom should know. Besides, it's practically a done deal, especially after everything you've done for the company." Emily's voice had an edge to it, something sharp hiding under the sweetness. "Everything I've done?" Michael set down his wine glass. "You know, finding those irregularities in the accounts." Emily stood up abruptly. "I should get dinner. You two keep talking." She disappeared into the kitchen. Michael looked uncomfortable, rubbing the back of his neck. "What irregularities?" I asked quietly. He sighed. "It's complicated, Mom. Nothing you need to worry about. Just some accounting stuff at work. I brought it to management's attention, and they're dealing with it." Before I could press further, Emily returned carrying 2 plates. She set one in front of me, then went back to the kitchen. The chicken parmesan looked absolutely perfect. Golden breaded chicken cutlets topped with marinara sauce and melted mozzarella, nestled on a bed of angel hair pasta. "This looks amazing, Emily," I called toward the kitchen. She emerged with the foil-covered plate, setting it carefully in front of Michael. "Your plate was special," she said, peeling back the foil. "I wanted yours to look extra nice." Michael's plate looked identical to mine, at least at first glance. But watching Emily's hands as she removed the foil, I noticed they were steady now. All the trembling from earlier was gone. She looked calm, focused. Emily served herself last, taking a modest portion, then sat down. She raised her wine glass. "To family," she said. "To family," Michael and I echoed. We began to eat. The chicken was delicious, tender and flavorful. The sauce had a richness to it that I couldn't quite identify. Something nutty? No, that had to be my imagination, my paranoid brain making connections that weren't there. "So, Emily," I said, trying to make conversation, "how's work going? Still enjoying the marketing firm?" "It's fine," she said, pushing pasta around her plate. She'd barely taken 2 bites. "Actually, I've been thinking about going part-time. You know, with Michael's promotion and everything, we'll have more financial security. I thought maybe it's time to think about starting a family." Michael nearly choked on his wine. "We haven't discussed that yet." "Haven't we, though?" Emily's voice was still sweet, but there was steel underneath. "I mean, you updated all your insurance policies last month. You made me the beneficiary on everything. That's what married couples do when they're planning for the future, right?" The temperature in the room seemed to drop. Michael set down his fork. "Emily, we talked about the insurance because the HR department recommended it. That's all." "Right, of course." Emily smiled, but it didn't look happy. It looked brittle, like it might shatter. "I'm sorry. I didn't mean to bring up a sore subject." But it hadn't been a sore subject until she'd made it one. I watched this exchange, feeling that stone in my stomach get heavier. Something was wrong between them. Had been wrong for a while, probably. Why hadn't Michael told me? Because he's an adult, Linda. He doesn't need to tell his mother everything about his marriage. But still, I wished he had. Michael took another bite of his chicken, then another. I checked the clock. 6:04 p.m. We'd been eating for about 3 minutes. That's when I heard it. A small cough. Michael clearing his throat. I glanced at him. He took a sip of water, coughed again. Nothing alarming yet. Just a tickle in the throat, probably. But then I noticed his hand. It had moved to his collar, loosening it slightly. My nursing instincts kicked in immediately. I set down my fork, my full attention on my son. "Michael?" My voice was steady, professional. "You okay?" "Yeah, I just—" Another cough, harder this time. Something went down wrong, but his face was starting to flush, not just a little pink, red, spreading from his neck up to his cheeks. Emily sat perfectly still, her fork suspended halfway to her mouth, watching. "Michael!" I stood up, my chair scraping against the floor. "Can you breathe?" His eyes met mine, and I saw it. The fear, the recognition. "I'm having trouble." His hand went to his throat. No, 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 no. I knew these signs. Had seen them dozens of times in the ER. Facial flushing, difficulty breathing, throat constriction, anaphylaxis. "Michael!" I moved to his side as his face darkened from red to a purplish hue. His breathing had become audible, a terrible wheezing sound. His fingers clawed at his collar, trying to get air. I spun toward Emily. "Call 911, now!" Emily stood slowly, so slowly it seemed like time had stopped. Her face was blank, not panicked, not scared, just watching. "Should we call 911? She said, her voice eerily calm. "Should we? Should we?" My hands were already reaching for Michael's belt, for the EpiPen case. My fingers fumbled with the snap, popped it open. Empty. The case was completely empty. Time seemed to fracture. I stared at the empty case, my brain refusing to process it. Michael never ever forgot his EpiPen. Never. In 29 years, not once. I looked up at Emily. She was still standing there, phone in her hand, not dialing, not moving, just watching my son die. And in that moment, with absolute clarity, I understood. This wasn't an accident. My hand was in my purse, pulling out my phone, dialing 911 before I even fully registered what I was doing. Years of emergency training took over. 911, what's your emergency? My son is having a severe allergic reaction. My voice was steady, clinical, even though inside I was screaming. He's 32 years old, approximately 180 pounds. Cashew allergy, anaphylactic shock. His airway is closing. We're at 1247 Maple Drive in Riverside. He needs epinephrine immediately. Michael slumped forward in his chair. I caught him, easing him back, trying to keep his airway open. His lips were turning blue. "Ma'am, is the patient conscious?" "Yes, but barely. His breathing is severely compromised." "Emergency services are on their way. Estimated arrival 7 minutes. Do you have an EpiPen available?" I looked at Emily. She was still standing there, phone in her hand, not helping, not moving. Our eyes locked. "No," I said clearly into the phone. It's been removed. Emily flinched. Ma'am, I need you to keep the patient calm and upright if possible. I dropped to my knees beside Michael's chair, supporting his weight, keeping him sitting up. His eyes found mine, wild with fear and the horrible understanding that he couldn't breathe, couldn't speak, couldn't do anything but wait and hope the paramedics arrived in time. It's okay, baby, I whispered, smoothing his sweat-dampened hair. Help is coming. Just hold on. Just hold on for me. But in my mind, I was calculating. 7 minutes. Could he survive 7 minutes without treatment? The wheezing was getting worse, the sound becoming higher-pitched, thinner. His airway was almost completely closed. I looked at Emily again. She still hadn't moved, hadn't called anyone, hadn't tried to help. And I knew with absolute certainty that I was watching attempted murder. The sirens cut through the evening air like a knife. I'd never been so grateful to hear that sound in my life. 7 minutes had felt like 7 hours. I'd kept Michael upright, kept talking to him, kept watching his chest rise and fall in increasingly shallow movements. The 911 operator had stayed on the line, talking me through it, but there was nothing to do except wait and pray. Emily had finally moved, taking a few steps back, pressing herself against the dining room wall like she wanted to disappear into it. She'd said nothing, done nothing, just watched. The paramedics burst through the front door. I'd unlocked it the moment we'd sat down for dinner, an old habit from my childhood in a small town where neighbors walked in and out freely. Now it had saved precious seconds. 2 of them, a man and a woman, both moving with the practiced efficiency I recognized from my own ER days. They had their equipment out before they even reached Michael. Anaphylaxis? The female paramedic asked, already checking his vitals. Yes, cashew allergy, no EpiPen available. I rattled off the information like I was still in scrubs, still on the floor. Onset approximately 6 minutes ago. Facial flushing, throat constriction, severe respiratory distress. She didn't waste time with more questions. The male paramedic was already preparing the epinephrine shot. He administered it into Michael's thigh, right through his pants. For a few agonizing seconds, nothing happened. Then Michael's chest expanded. A full breath instead of those terrible shallow gasps. Color started returning to his face, though he still looked terrible, pale, sweating, exhausted. We're transporting to Riverside General, the female paramedic said, looking at me. Are you family? I'm his mother. You can ride with us. I'll go, Emily said from the wall. Her voice was small, uncertain. I'm his wife. I turned to look at her, really look at her. She was still in that navy blue dress, still perfectly put together except for the mascara that had started to run. Had she been crying? I hadn't noticed any tears. No, I said quietly. You stay here. But I'm his wife, Emily repeated, taking a step forward. You stay here. I made each word its own sentence. Don't go anywhere. Don't clean up the kitchen. Don't touch anything. Do you understand me? The male paramedic glanced between us, clearly sensing the tension, but too professional to comment. They had Michael on the stretcher now, an oxygen mask over his face. His eyes were clearer, focused. He reached out and squeezed my hand once before they wheeled him toward the door. I followed them, but at the threshold I pulled out my phone. My hands were shaking now, the adrenaline starting to wear off, reality crashing in. But I knew what I had to do. I scrolled through my contacts and found the name I needed. Hit call. She answered on the second ring. Lynn? Isn't this your dinner night with Michael and Emily? Sarah, I said, cutting through her greeting. I need you. My sister's voice changed immediately, from casual to razor sharp. What happened? Michael just had severe anaphylactic shock. At dinner, Emily made chicken parmesan. I paused, watching the paramedics load Michael into the ambulance. She knows about his allergy, has known for 8 years. His EpiPen was removed from his case before dinner. And Sarah, she just stood there. She didn't help. She didn't call for help. She just watched. Silence on the other end. Sarah Mitchell wasn't just my older sister. She was a detective with Riverside PD, 23 years on the force. She knew exactly what I was telling her. Is he alive? She asked. Yes. Paramedics got here in time. We're heading to Riverside General now. I'm making some calls. Lynn, listen to me carefully. Don't let Emily near him at the hospital. And that kitchen, I already told her not to touch anything. Good girl. I could hear her moving, grabbing keys. I'll meet you at the hospital. 30 minutes. The ambulance doors closed and we pulled away, sirens wailing. Through the back windows, I could see the house growing smaller. Emily was standing in the doorway, silhouetted by the light from inside. Just standing there, watching us leave. The ER at Riverside General was busy for a Sunday evening, but they took Michael straight back. I tried to follow, but a nurse, young, kind-eyed, stopped me gently at the doors. Are you family? I'm his mother. We'll come get you as soon as the doctor has examined him. The paramedic said he's stable. It shouldn't be long. I nodded, not trusting my voice, and sank into one of those awful plastic chairs that every hospital waiting room in America seems to have. My legs suddenly couldn't hold me anymore. Now that the immediate crisis was over, everything hit me at once. The image of Michael's face turning purple, the empty EpiPen case, Emily's blank expression as she watched her husband suffocate. Someone had tried to kill my son, my only child, my baby boy who'd survived childhood leukemia at age 5, who'd lost his father when he was 27, who'd called me every Sunday morning for the past 10 years just to check in. Someone had tried to kill him, and I'd been sitting right there, eating the same meal, making small talk about tomatoes and promotions. I pulled out my phone with trembling hands and texted Sarah. Riverside General, main entrance, I'm in the waiting room. The response came immediately. 15 minutes out. Officers dispatched to secure the scene at the house. Officers. Scene. The words felt surreal. This was my son's home, not a crime scene. But that's what it had become, wasn't it? My mind kept circling back to one question. Why? Why would Emily want Michael dead? Money was the obvious answer. It always was in cases like this. Michael made good money as a software engineer. 6 figures, stock options, benefits. And Emily had mentioned the life insurance update, made a point of mentioning it during dinner. Had Michael named her as the beneficiary? Almost certainly. That's what married couples did. But how much would that be? Enough to murder for. I thought about Emily's behavior over the past few months. The canceled dinners. The way she'd been so insistent I come tonight. That weird comment about going part-time, about starting a family, even though Michael clearly hadn't agreed to any of that. And tonight, that pre-plated dinner, the covered dish, making sure Michael got a specific plate. Oh God, had she made 2 batches, one with cashews for Michael, one without for me? The thought made me physically ill. I'd eaten that same dish, complimented it, asked for the recipe. And all along, my son had been eating poison. Mrs. Anderson? I looked up. A doctor stood there, middle-aged, with tired eyes but a kind face. And most importantly, she was smiling. That small, relieved smile that doctors have when they're about to deliver good news. Your son is going to be fine, she said, and I felt tears spring to my eyes. The epinephrine worked perfectly. His vitals are stable, his airway is clear. We're keeping him overnight for observation. Anaphylaxis can sometimes have a delayed secondary reaction, but he's out of danger. Can I see him? Of course. He's in Bay 7 right through those doors. She paused. Fair warning, he's pretty exhausted. Anaphylaxis takes a huge toll on the body, but he's awake and asking for you. I stood on shaky legs and followed her through the double doors into the ER proper. The familiar sights and sounds washed over me. Monitors beeping, low conversations, the squeak of rubber-soled shoes on linoleum. I'd spent so many years in places like this, but never as the terrified family member. Always as the calm professional. Bay 7 was at the end. The curtain was partially drawn. I pushed it aside and saw Michael sitting up in bed, an IV in his arm, looking pale and drawn, but infinitely better than he had at the dinner table. When he saw me, his face crumpled. Mom, he said, his voice rough from the trauma to his throat. Mom, she tried to kill me. I pulled the curtain closed and went to him, pulling him into as much of a hug as I could manage with all the tubes and wires. He shook against me, and I realized he was crying. My 32-year-old son, this capable software engineer who fixed his own car and did his own taxes, was crying like the little boy he'd been when I told him his father wasn't coming home. I know, baby. I know. My EpiPen was there, Mom. When I got to the house, I checked it like I always do. It was there. His words tumbled out, urgent, desperate to make me believe him. And then Emily said she needed help getting the wine from the basement storage, and I put my jacket on the coat rack and he stopped, taking a shaky breath. When I sat down for dinner, the case was empty. I didn't notice until I started feeling the symptoms. By then it was too late. Michael, I believe you. Of course I believe you. She asked me about my will, he continued, the words pouring out now like a dam had broken. 2 months ago. Asked if everything was updated. She made me promise to make her the beneficiary on everything. My life insurance through work, my 401k, everything. She said that's what married couples do, that we were planning for the future. How much? I asked quietly. Total? About $800,000. He laughed, but there was no humor in it. That's what my life is worth, apparently. The curtain rustled and I turned, ready to snap at whoever was interrupting. But it was Sarah. My sister looked exactly as she always did when working. Sharp, focused, all business. She was wearing jeans and a blazer, her detective's badge clipped to her belt. Michael, she said gently, stepping into the small space. I'm going to need you to tell me everything you remember. Every detail. Can you do that? Michael nodded, wiping his eyes. Aunt Sarah, God, I'm so glad you're here. Your mom called me right away. Smart woman. She pulled out a small notebook, old school, not digital. Sarah had always preferred paper for interviews. Said people responded better to it. Now start from the beginning. What time did you arrive at the house? Michael recounted it all, arriving at 6 p.m., checking his EpiPen. It was there, he was certain. Emily asking him to help with the wine, a 5-minute trip to the basement. Coming back up, his jacket on the coat rack, sitting down to eat. Wait, Sarah stopped him. Emily asked you to go to the basement? Yeah, she said the bottle she wanted was in the back of the storage area. But when I got down there... He paused, his face clouding. The wine was right on the front shelf, easy to reach. I remember thinking it was weird that she'd asked me to get it. Sarah and I exchanged glances. Emily had deliberately separated Michael from his jacket, from his EpiPen. Anything else unusual? Sarah asked. Any other times when something strange happened with your allergy? Michael was quiet for a moment. Then his expression changed, like he was seeing something clearly for the first time. 3 weeks ago, he said slowly. We went to dinner at that Thai place on University Avenue. I went to the bathroom, and when I came back, my food had arrived, but it had crushed peanuts on top. I'm allergic to all tree nuts, not just cashews. Emily swore she'd told the waiter no nuts, made a huge scene about how they'd gotten the order wrong. But you didn't believe her, I said. I didn't want to be paranoid. I didn't want to be that guy who accuses his wife of trying to hurt him. His voice broke. But I was right, wasn't I? I should have trusted my instincts. Michael, Sarah said, her voice gentle but firm. This is not your fault. Do you understand me? You trusted your wife. That's not a character flaw. That's being a decent human being. A young officer appeared at the curtain. Detective Mitchell, we've secured the house. Nothing's been touched. Samples of the food have been collected, and we've got photos of everything. The EpiPen? Sarah asked. Found in the kitchen trash can, covered with coffee grounds. Looks like someone tried to hide it. The rage that went through me was white-hot and pure. Emily hadn't just removed the EpiPen. She'd thrown it away. Deliberately hidden it so Michael couldn't find it even if he'd gone looking. That's premeditation, Sarah said. Clear intent. She turned back to Michael. I'm going to be straight with you. We have enough for an arrest. But I need to ask you something, and I need you to really think about the answer. Michael looked wary. Okay. Has Emily been acting strangely? Scared, maybe? Nervous? Like someone might be pressuring her? It was the question I hadn't thought to ask. The question that made my stomach drop. Actually, Michael said slowly, yeah. For the past few weeks, she's seemed anxious, jumpy. She kept saying she needed to talk to me about something important, but every time I asked what, she'd change the subject. Sarah nodded, making notes. One more thing. Does the name Patricia Hayes mean anything to you? That's Emily's mother. Why? The cashew powder we found in your pantry. It was ordered online, shipped to Patricia Hayes' address 3 weeks ago. The room went very quiet. Michael stared at Sarah, processing this. But why would Emily's mom? That's what I need to find out, Sarah said. Michael, I want you to rest. Officer Davies here is going to stay outside your room tonight. Just a precaution. You think Emily might come back? Michael's voice was small. I think we should be careful until we understand what we're dealing with, Sarah said diplomatically. She gestured for me to follow her out into the hallway. Once we were alone, she lowered her voice. Lynn, this case is more complicated than attempted murder. Something else is going on here. What do you mean? Emily's mother ordered the cashew powder, but it was shipped to her house, not Michael and Emily's. Why would Emily ask her mother to order it? Why not just order it herself? And if Patricia Hayes is involved, what's her motive? I thought about Patricia. I'd met her maybe a dozen times over the years. She was polished, well-dressed, always pleasant, but somehow cold. The kind of woman who said all the right things, but never felt quite genuine. Could Emily be protecting her mother? I asked. Taking the fall for something Patricia did? Maybe. Or maybe Emily's a victim too. Sarah's expression was grim. I've seen cases like this before. Manipulation, coercion. Someone puts pressure on someone else to do terrible things. So what do we do? We investigate. Carefully. I'm going to bring Emily in for questioning tomorrow morning. Not an arrest, just questions. I want to see how she reacts, what she says. Sarah put a hand on my shoulder. Lynn, I need you to prepare yourself for the possibility that this isn't as simple as an evil daughter-in-law. There might be layers here we don't understand yet. I nodded, but inside I wasn't sure what I felt. Part of me wanted Emily to be guilty, wanted this to be simple and clear-cut. But another part of me, the part that had spent 40 years caring for people at their most vulnerable, that part wondered if Sarah was right. What if Emily was a victim too? I stayed at the hospital that night, dozing fitfully in the chair beside Michael's bed. Every time I started to drift off, I'd jerk awake, my heart pounding, reliving that moment when I'd opened his EpiPen case and found it empty. Sarah had gone home around midnight, promising to return first thing in the morning. Get some rest, Lynn, she'd said. Tomorrow's going to be a long day. But rest was impossible. My mind kept circling, trying to make sense of it all. Emily, Patricia, the cashew powder ordered to Patricia's house, Michael's comments about Emily seeming scared, anxious, wanting to tell him something. What if Sarah was right? What if Emily wasn't the monster I'd thought she was? At 7 a.m., a different doctor came in to check on Michael. He declared him stable enough to go home, or rather to come home with me. Sarah had been firm about that. He's not going back to that house. Not yet. Michael didn't argue. I think part of him was relieved. We were getting him dressed when my phone buzzed. Sarah. Emily's coming in at 9 for questioning. Can you be there? To observe? If you want. Might help to hear what she says. I looked at Michael. He was moving slowly, still exhausted, but his color was better. I should stay with Michael. I'll be fine, Mom, he said quietly. Go. I want to know what she says too. So at 8:30, I found myself walking into the Riverside Police Department. I'd been here before, years ago, when Sarah first made detective. She'd given me a tour. But it felt different now. Colder. More real. Sarah met me in the lobby and led me through a maze of hallways to a small room with a one-way mirror. Through the glass, I could see an interview room. 2 chairs, a table, a recording device. Empty. She'll be here in 15 minutes, Sarah said, handing me a cup of coffee I hadn't asked for but desperately needed. Her lawyer convinced her to come in voluntarily. Says she wants to cooperate fully. Does she have a lawyer? Public defender. She called from her mother's house last night. Sarah paused. Lynn, I want you to watch her face. Really watch it. You were a nurse for almost 40 years. You know how to read people. Tell me what you see. At 8:57, Emily arrived. She looked terrible. Her blonde hair was pulled back in a messy ponytail. No makeup. Her clothes, jeans and a wrinkled t-shirt, looked like she'd slept in them. Her eyes were red and swollen. The lawyer with her was a young woman, maybe 30, carrying an overstuffed briefcase. She looked tired, too. Sarah entered the interview room, and I watched through the glass as she went through the formalities. Name, date, time, Miranda rights. Emily signed the waiver saying she understood her rights and wanted to talk anyway. Emily, Sarah began, her voice neutral. Tell me about last night's dinner. I cooked chicken parmesan, Emily said, her voice barely above a whisper. Michael loves it. I wanted to make something special. Why did you want to make something special? Emily's hands twisted in her lap. Because I thought it might be our last dinner together. Sarah's expression didn't change. Why did you think that? Because I was going to tell him. After dinner. I was going to tell him everything. Tell him what? Emily's face crumpled. That I couldn't do it. That I didn't care what my mother said. I couldn't go through with it. I was going to warn him. The room went very still. Through the glass, I felt my breath catch. Emily, Sarah said carefully, what couldn't you go through with? And then Emily started talking. Once she started, the words poured out like water from a broken dam. It had started 4 months ago. Patricia had shown up at Emily's office, unexpected, claiming there was a family emergency. She'd taken Emily to lunch and dropped the bomb. She was $200,000 in debt. Gambling debts, she said, to very dangerous people. She showed me pictures, Emily said, her voice shaking. Pictures of what these people did to other people who didn't pay. She was terrified. She said they were going to kill her if she didn't get the money. Did you see these people? Sarah asked. Did they contact you directly? No, just the pictures. And Mom's fear. It was so real. I'd never seen her like that. Emily wiped her eyes. She said Michael's life insurance was the only way. That if something happened to him before a divorce, I'd get everything. We could pay off the debt and still have money left over. Emily, Sarah's voice was still calm, still neutral. Did your mother ask you to kill your husband? Not at first. At first, she just planted the idea, little comments. Accidents happen all the time. He's so careless with that allergy. You know, if something happened, you'd be set for life. Emily's hands were shaking now. I told her no. I told her I loved Michael, that I'd never hurt him, so she what? Emily pulled her phone from her pocket. Her lawyer started to object, but Emily ignored her. She pulled up a series of photos and slid the phone across the table. Sarah looked at them, her face carefully blank, but I saw her jaw tighten. These are fake, Emily said. But I didn't know that until 2 days ago. My mother showed them to me 6 weeks ago and said if I didn't help her, she'd send them to Michael. She'd destroy my marriage anyway. What am I looking at? Sarah asked. Me? With someone else. In bed. At a hotel. Emily's voice broke. Except I've never been to that hotel. I've never cheated on Michael. But the photos look real. My face, my body. I don't know how she did it, but she did it. And she said if I didn't do what she asked, she'd send them to Michael along with fake text messages, fake emails. She'd make him believe I'd been having an affair for months. Through the glass, I felt sick. This was manipulation at its most cruel. Patricia had trapped her own daughter, used her love for Michael against her. So you agreed, Sarah said. No, I still said no. Emily was crying now, ugly, desperate crying. So she showed me one more thing. A video of Michael at work, talking to his boss about irregularities in the accounts, about someone named David Clark embezzling money. I went very still. David Clark, Michael's business partner. My mother said David was her friend, Emily continued, that he was helping her with the debt. And if Michael got him fired or arrested, he'd make sure I went down too. He'd plant evidence that I was involved in the affair cover-up, that I was blackmailing Michael. She said I'd go to prison. Emily, Sarah leaned forward. Your mother doesn't have gambling debts, does she? Emily looked up, confused. What? We ran a background check on Patricia Hayes last night. No gambling debts, no dangerous people. Her credit is perfect. She owns her house outright, has a healthy retirement account. There's no debt. The color drained from Emily's face. But the pictures of what they'd do to her, probably found them online. Emily, your mother lied to you. But why? Emily's voice was a whisper. Why would she do this? Sarah slid a file across the table. This is David Clark. He's been under investigation for embezzling approximately $600,000 from the company where he and Michael work. Michael discovered the discrepancies 3 weeks ago and reported them to management. The investigation was supposed to be confidential, but somehow David found out Michael was the one who turned him in. She pulled out another document. This is David Clark's phone records. For the past 2 months, he's been in constant contact with one number. Want to guess whose? Emily stared at the paper. My mother. Your mother, Sarah confirmed. They've been having an affair for 18 months, and when David realized he was about to be caught, about to lose everything, he and Patricia came up with a plan. Get rid of Michael before he could testify. Use you to do it. And if it worked, David gets away with the embezzlement. Your mother gets to play the grieving matriarch supporting her devastated daughter. And they both get access to Michael's life insurance money. Emily made a sound that wasn't quite human, a wail of anguish and betrayal. And if it didn't work, Sarah continued relentlessly, if something went wrong, you'd be the one holding the bag. You put the cashews in the food. You removed the EpiPen. You'd go to prison, and they'd walk away clean. No, Emily whispered. No, that's not. She's my mother. She wouldn't. But even as she said it, I could see the truth settling over her. The realization that she'd been played, used, thrown away like a pawn in someone else's game. Her lawyer put a hand on her arm. Emily, don't say anything else, not until we've had time to. I put the cashews in his food, Emily said, her voice hollow. I ground them up and mixed them into the sauce, just his portion, not Mrs. Anderson's. I made 2 batches. She looked up at Sarah, her eyes empty. My mother told me exactly how to do it. She said it would look like an accident, cross-contamination, a tragic mistake. She said I just had to be calm, call 911 at the right time, make it look like I tried to help. And the EpiPen? When Michael went to the basement, I took it out of his jacket. I was supposed to throw it away outside in a neighbor's trash, but I couldn't. I put it in our kitchen trash instead. I think part of me wanted him to find it, wanted someone to know. Sarah was quiet for a moment. Emily, why didn't you just tell Michael? Why didn't you show him the fake photos, tell him about the threats? Because I was ashamed, Emily said simply. Because I believed her at first. I actually considered it for a few days before I realized how insane it was. And I was so ashamed that I'd even thought about it, even for a second, that I couldn't tell him. I couldn't face him. She wiped her eyes. And then yesterday morning I woke up and I knew I couldn't do it. I was going to tell Michael everything after dinner. I was going to beg him to forgive me and help me figure out what to do about my mother. But the cashews were already in the food, Sarah said. I made the batch with cashews, but I was going to throw it away and serve him the safe one. I swear that's what I was planning. Emily's face was desperate now, pleading. But then my mother showed up. She wasn't supposed to be there. She said she wanted to make sure everything went according to plan. And she switched the plates. While I was in the kitchen. I didn't see her do it, but she must have. Because I know which plate I gave Michael, and it was the safe one. I swear it was the safe one. Through the glass, I didn't know what to feel. Anger, pity, disgust, relief. It all swirled together into something too complicated to name. Sarah stood up. Emily Anderson, I'm placing you under arrest for attempted voluntary manslaughter. You have the right to remain. I know my rights, Emily said dully. I signed the waiver, remember? As they let her out, she looked directly at the one-way mirror. She couldn't see me, but somehow her eyes found exactly where I was standing. I'm sorry, she mouthed. I'm so sorry. I met Sarah in the hallway outside. My legs felt weak. She's a victim too, I said. It wasn't a question. She's a victim who put poison in her husband's food, Sarah replied. Both things can be true, Lynn. She was manipulated, coerced, psychologically abused, but she also made choices, bad choices. What happens now? Now we go after Patricia Hayes and David Clark. Emily's testimony, combined with the phone records and the cashew powder order, gives us enough for arrest warrants. Sarah checked her watch. In fact, officers should be picking them up right now. My phone buzzed. A text from Michael. How'd it go? I didn't know how to answer that. How did you tell your son that his wife had tried to kill him, but also that she'd been manipulated by her own mother? That she'd been planning to warn him, to confess, but it had all gone horribly wrong? I need to get back to Michael, I said. Go. I'll call you later with updates. Sarah hugged me, quick and fierce. Lynn, you saved his life. Don't forget that. But as I walked out of the police station into the bright morning sun, I couldn't shake the image of Emily's face, the devastation in her eyes when she realized her mother had used her, had been willing to sacrifice her to save herself. What kind of mother does that to her child? And then I thought about what I would do, what I had done, to protect Michael. The instant recognition of the anaphylaxis, the immediate action, the call to Sarah, the preservation of evidence. I'd been a mother protecting her child. Patricia had been a mother sacrificing hers. The difference between the two was everything. When I got back to the hospital, Michael was sitting up in bed, dressed in the clothes I'd brought from his old room at Lisa's house. He looked better, still pale, still tired, but alive. So wonderfully alive. "Tell me," he said as soon as I walked in. So I did. I told him everything Emily had said. About Patricia's lies, the fake gambling debts, the manipulated photos, about David Clark and the embezzlement, about how Emily had been planning to warn him, but Patricia had switched the plates. Michael listened in silence, his face unreadable. When I finished, he was quiet for a long time. "Do you believe her?" he finally asked. "I don't know," I said honestly. "Sarah thinks there's truth in what she said. The evidence supports it. The phone records between Patricia and David, the timeline. But Emily still made choices, Michael. She still put cashews in that food, even if she claims she wasn't going to serve it to you." "She was going to let me think she'd tried to kill me," Michael said softly. "Even if she'd warned me before I ate it, she'd already made the poison. She'd already taken my EpiPen. She'd already decided at some point that she was willing to consider it." "Yes," I said. "She did." His phone buzzed. He glanced at it, then showed me the screen. A news alert. 2 arrested in alleged murder-for-hire plot. I read the brief article. Patricia Hayes, 56, and David Clark, 47, had been arrested that morning and charged with conspiracy to commit murder. They were being held without bail. "They got them," Michael said. There was no satisfaction in his voice, just exhaustion. 3 days later, Sarah called me. Emily's lawyer worked out a plea deal. She's pleading guilty to attempted voluntary manslaughter. The DA agreed to reduce charges because of the coercion and manipulation. She'll get 5 years, eligible for parole in 3. And Patricia? David? Trial's set for next month. With Emily's testimony and the evidence we have, the DA's confident. Patricia's looking at 15 to 20. David's facing 25, the conspiracy charge plus the embezzlement. 5 years, 15 years, 25 years. Numbers that represented lives destroyed, families shattered, trust broken beyond repair. "There's something else," Sarah said. "Emily asked if she could see Michael before sentencing. She says she wants to apologize in person." "Absolutely not," I said immediately. "That's what I told her lawyer. But Lynn, it might give Michael closure. Let him say what he needs to say." I thought about that, about Michael's face when I'd told him everything. The way he'd looked, not angry, but lost, like the foundation of his world had cracked and he didn't know which pieces were still solid. "Let me talk to him," I said. Michael surprised me. He wanted to see her. "I need to look her in the eye," he said. "I need to hear her say it to my face. Otherwise, I'll always wonder." So 2 weeks later, we sat in a small conference room at the county jail. Sarah was there, and Emily's lawyer. Emily was brought in wearing an orange jumpsuit, her wrists shackled. She'd lost weight. Her hair, usually so carefully styled, hung limp around her face. When she saw Michael, she started crying immediately. "I'm so sorry," she said, her voice breaking. "Michael, I'm so sorry." Michael's face was stone. "Why?" "Because I was weak. Because I believed my mother when I should have trusted you. Because I was ashamed and scared, and I made terrible choices." She was sobbing now. "I put poison in your food. I took your EpiPen. I almost killed you. And I will never, ever forgive myself for that." "Did you love me?" Michael asked. "Ever? Or was it all a lie?" Emily looked up, her eyes red and swollen. "I loved you. I still love you. That's what makes this so much worse. I loved you, and I still almost let you die." "You did let me almost die," Michael said quietly. "You didn't call 911. You stood there and watched. My mom had to do it." "I know." Emily's voice was barely a whisper. "I froze. I panicked. I realized what I'd done, and I just froze. Your mother saved your life, and I'll be grateful to her for that for the rest of mine." The rest of yours, Michael repeated. 5 years. You'll be 33 when you get out. You'll have your whole life ahead of you. And I'll spend the rest of mine looking over my shoulder, wondering if everyone I trust is planning to kill me. Emily flinched like he'd slapped her. I know I don't deserve forgiveness. I'm not asking for it. I just wanted you to know that I'm sorry, that I wish I'd been stronger, that I wish I'd told you the truth from the beginning. Michael stood up. I wish you had too. Maybe then we could have stopped this together. Maybe then I wouldn't have to get a divorce from jail. He walked out without looking back. I started to follow, but something made me pause. I turned back to Emily. Why? I asked. Why didn't you just tell him? My son loved you. If you'd come to him and said, my mother is threatening me, he would have helped you. Emily's laugh was bitter. Because, Mrs. Anderson, you raised a good man, a strong, honest, capable man. And my mother raised me to believe I was nothing without a man, that I was weak and worthless and lucky anyone wanted me at all. She wiped her eyes. When she showed me those fake photos, told me Michael would leave me when he saw them, I believed her. Because deep down, I'd always been waiting for him to realize I wasn't good enough. That's what she'd taught me my whole life. I felt something twist in my chest. Pity, anger, sadness for this broken young woman who'd been poisoned long before she'd ever put cashews in Michael's food. Therapy, I said. Get therapy, in prison, when you get out, for the rest of your life. Break the cycle. I am, she said. That's the only good thing about being here. I'm learning about narcissistic abuse, about codependency, about all the ways my mother broke me before I ever met Michael. She looked at me directly. Do you hate me? I thought about that. Really thought about it. I hate what you did, I said finally. I hate that you hurt my son. But I don't know if I hate you. You're not the monster I thought you were that night. You're just broken. And that's almost worse because monsters are easy to hate. Broken people are just sad. The trial came and went. Patricia Hayes showed no remorse, claimed Emily had acted alone, that she'd never suggested anything. But the evidence was overwhelming. Phone records, text messages, the cashew powder order, David Clark's testimony. He'd flipped on Patricia in exchange for a reduced sentence. Patricia got 18 years, David got 22. Emily got 5. 6 months after that night, I made dinner at my house. Just Michael and me. Simple pasta, salad, bread. Nothing exotic. Nothing with nuts. Michael showed up early, as he always did now. He checked the ingredients of everything, even though he knew I'd never put anything dangerous in his food. It was a compulsion, Sarah said. Trauma response. He was in therapy twice a week. We ate in comfortable silence for a while. Then Michael set down his fork. I got a letter from Emily, he said. I waited. She's doing well. Has a job in the prison library, taking college courses. She said her therapist is helping her understand how her mother manipulated her. He paused. She's not asking for anything. Not forgiveness, not reconciliation. She just wanted me to know she's working on herself. How do you feel about that? I don't know, he said honestly. Part of me is glad she's getting help. Part of me doesn't care. Part of me is still so angry I can barely breathe when I think about it. All of those feelings are valid, I said. I know. That's what my therapist says too. He smiled slightly. You saved my life, Mom. Twice. Once when you called 911 and once when you called Aunt Sarah. If you hadn't acted so fast, hadn't been so sure about what was happening. Mothers protect their children, I said. That's what we do. Patricia was a mother too, Michael said quietly, but she sacrificed her child to save herself. Yes, I said, she did. And that's the difference between us. We finished dinner in silence. As Michael was leaving, he hugged me tight. I love you, Mom. Thank you for being you. I love you too, baby. I watched him drive away, checking his mirrors carefully, being cautious in ways he'd never been before. My son was alive, but he was changed. More careful, more guarded, less trusting. The naive young man who'd believed the best of everyone was gone. In his place was someone harder, someone who knew that evil could wear a familiar face. I didn't know if that was better or worse, but it was the truth. And sometimes the truth is all we have. People often ask me if I've forgiven Emily. I still don't have an answer. But I know this. I protected my son when it mattered most. I trusted my instincts. I acted fast. I called in help. And I taught him the hardest lesson of all, that sometimes the greatest danger comes from those we trust most. That's not cynicism. That's survival. And in the end, survival is everything.